Good day from Inside Drug Discovery. This video covers a new drug, Cardamyst, which was recently approved by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. This video discusses the drug's medicinal chemistry properties as opposed to outcomes in patients. Cardamyst was approved on December 12th of 2025. Cardamyst is approved for the conversion of acute symptomatic paroxysmal supraventricular tachycardia to sinus rhythm. Cardamyst's active pharmaceutical ingredient is etripamil. The drug is administered as a nasal spray in a single 140 milligram dose. To clarify, you administer a single spray of 70 milligrams into each nostril. So that is a total dose of 140 milligrams. The sponsor for the NDA is Milestone Pharmaceuticals. A link to the prescribing information insert of Cardamyst is shown on this slide as well as in the video description. How does Cardamyst work? Etripamil, the API in Cardamyst, is a calcium channel blocker, or CCB. Calcium channel blockers as a group are used in a number of cardiovascular indications, including hypertension, angina, and vasospasms. Most calcium channel blockers are part of the dihydropyridine class. Etripamil structurally resembles just one other CCB, verapamil. In fact, the two compounds are very similar, just differing by the groups on the right side ring. Etripamil has an ester, while verapamil has two methoxy groups. I don't have potency information on etripamil specifically, but some potency values for verapamil can be found in IUPhar's Guide to Pharmacology. Its IC50 on rat calcium channel 1.2 is in the neighborhood of 1 micromolar. On rabbit calcium channel 1.1, it's about 10 micromolar. Presumably, etripamil has similar potencies based on its similar structure. I will point out that verapamil is marketed as a racemate at the stereocenter with the cyano group. The prescribing information for etripamil is somewhat vague and does imply the stereochemistry, but prescribing information inserts are normally more explicit and specifically call out any configurations as either R or S. Online resources do infer that etripamil is a single enantiomer with the S configuration. Here are some of the physicochemical properties of etripamil as calculated by Swiss ADME. Although etripamil is not orally administered, it does need to cross the membranes in the nasal passages. Based on the physicochemical properties, one would expect the compound to have decent membrane permeability. This slide shows the PK properties. The half-life is not explicitly mentioned in the prescribing information, but the data imply a half-life of around 30 minutes. If a patient takes multiple doses, then the half-life does get longer, but typically a patient should only need a single dose for an acute tachycardia event. The volume of distribution is large. The clearance is not provided, but you can try to calculate clearance from the half-life and volume of distribution, assuming a one compartment model. If you do the calculation, you get a clearance of 4,400 liters per hour, which is quite high. The Tmax is short, which is desirable given the patient is suffering from a serious cardiac stress situation at the time of administration. Administration as a nasal spray enables the short Tmax. Etripamil is metabolized primarily by CYP3A4 and 3A5. It also undergoes extrahepatic metabolism in the plasma by esterases. I'm going to make some general guesses here. I suspect etripamil is mostly cleared by plasma esterases, and that explains the high clearance that exceeds liver blood flow. The resulting carboxylic acid is likely inactive. Based on the prescribing information, the carboxylic acid undergoes glucuronidation and conjugation with taurine. Dimethylations are also observed. In a radiolabel study, about equal amounts of the metabolites were observed in the feces and urine. Much of the balance of the dose was found on the noses and faces of patients. The warnings for Cardamyst are limited, with just fainting and dizziness listed. Adverse reactions observed in at least 5% of patients include nasal discomfort, congestion, and discharge, as well as throat irritation and nosebleeds. That concludes the NDA approval of Cardamyst, which was announced by the U.S. FDA on December 12th of 2025. Cardamyst contains etripamil as its active pharmaceutical ingredient. Cardamyst is approved for the treatment of certain types of tachycardia. As always, thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, or leave a comment. Take care.